Hello everybody. I'm tackling something a little bit tricky, a little bit taboo really for a lot of people today. And the reason I'm tackling this is it's the subject of bereavement actually. And bereavement happens to everybody regardless of age, circumstance, wherever you are. And unfortunately, particularly during this time of COVID where people have been isolated, life and death has continued. And actually death, it sounds a bit awful to be talking like this, but death is part of life, and those feelings that we have surrounding death are actually part of love. And very sadly, recently, some of my, I call them my rainbow children, my kids who have come to see me privately in sessions since I've reopened, there's been a few of them who have had to deal with the very sad, uncomfortable, difficult subject of death. There was one little girl who came to see me recently, and her grandmother had passed, and because of COVID, only 10 people were allowed into the funeral, which meant that she wasn't able to have that closure and that time to say goodbye to her beloved grandma. And she's not the only one who I've spoken with recently. I've had quite a few emails about this, not only for adults finding that difficult to deal with because there isn't that closure, there isn't that celebration of somebody's life, that sharing of memories, but for a child, even in normal circumstances, the topic of death is a very, very difficult one. And so today, I thought what might be really lovely is to share a few massage tips for this that you can either administer on yourself or with a child, or they can do it with you, because touch is incredibly bonding and stirs up the happy hormones, the coping chemicals, the love and the nurture, which is what you massively need. But I also want to take you on a little journey, a little guided meditation, only a little one, because for most children, 10-15 minutes is more than enough. So I'm just giving you a few tips here for either yourselves, because this applies to all ages, or for a child who is going through this process of bereavement and during these difficult times may not have been able to process it, or had found it even more difficult. This girl's mum actually said to me that there was no closure because, it was so quick and the funeral could only be 20 minutes and then it was all over and done with, which didn't feel real. So they've been left with this feeling that what has happened doesn't feel real, and there was nowhere to go with those feelings. So it's a really difficult one to process. But if you take anything away from this today, what I'd really love you to know is that any feelings you do have are completely natural. Sit with them. Whether that's anger, it's quite natural. Resentment, even of the person who has passed, this is normal. It's all of the stages of grief. And if you feel sad, and if tears come today, let them come. Sit with them. And we live in a world, particularly in the UK, where it's that old British stiff upper lip, where people mean well, and they really do mean well when they say to you, oh, be strong, you can get through this. And actually, sometimes what somebody wants is for you to sit and let them cry, to let them let it out, to cry with them. Because sometimes, even for someone like me, miraculously, there are no words. There just aren't. So just to sit with someone in that grief, to touch them without trying to tell them it will be all right, without trying to tell them it will be fixed in 5 minutes. Just that touch to allow is more powerful than any words could ever be. And part of being strong is sitting with those feelings, maybe not having the right words to process it. And for a child, they may not be able to verbalize it anyway. And if you have a child with severe autism who is non-verbal, or a child who's selective mute, they're not going to be able to verbalize it. So touch is a fantastic way to cross all those barriers. It's also been proven, and a massive leader in this field is a lady called Professor Candace Burt, and she is absolutely wonderful. She's done absolutely years and years of research, neurological, biological research, and she is one of several key researchers in this field who have actually proven that just as we have an immune system, our nervous system also carries its own memories. It, just as, you know, the brain carries memories, she has proved beyond all doubt that our cells are learning and growing and carrying memories around our bodies. So whether we reprogram those cells through touch, and don't forget we've got that amazing, the subconscious has control of over 37.2 trillion of our cells. So when we use touch, that instantly begins to reprogram those cells with happier, more able to cope and function memories within the cells. But when we go on a guided journey, we're delving into that subconscious, which has control, direct control over those 37.2 trillion cells. And that can also help to reprogram the memory in the cells. So rather than say to somebody, oh, be strong, or if it's a child, oh, well, you know, pull yourself together, you'll be all right, you know, placebo things really, because you don't want your child to hurt. It's the most natural thing in the world. But touch and guided meditations will do all of those things whilst allowing the child and yourselves that space to walk through that bereavement in whichever way is right for you. And there's no right or wrong way. So first of all, a bit of massage on the face. So the reason I've chosen the face is because, as you might know from previous videos, if you've watched them, and if you haven't, catch up on those, because even though I'm a little bit nerdy, it's all shared in a very light-hearted way, because our bodies are learning and growing all the time. And when you work on the face, you are working on the gut. The gut begins at the face, believe it or not, goes down the esophagus, and it goes into the actual gut. And the reason I'm wearing a coat today is, you can even have a blanket, is because that's getting ready for our meditation in a minute. So if you've got something warm and comforting to wrap yourselves up in, whether it's a big woolly coat, even though it's hot out there, or a blanket, it's that comfort feeling. It wraps you up. It shows you the edges of your own skin. It brings you back into your body from that busy place in your head where you're trying to work through your grief. So I'm not just going mad, wearing a coat over a summer top. There is always a reason behind my madness. Bear with this. So working on the face, you are working on the gut, and particularly anything around the eyes. As I've mentioned in my previous videos, you're working on the gut. Why am I banging on about the gut? Because it's the second brain, the enteric brain. It's where we store 90% of our serotonin, the happiness, confidence, self-esteem hormone, you know, that helps you feel you can cope and function, get through anything. So that when you're working around the eyes, you're directly on the stomach. As you also know from my previous videos, research by Dr. Michael Gershon, just to really root this in science. I know I look like a little fairy, but actually there is a little bit of a brain going on in there, and I hope you pick up on all this information I share in amongst all the madness. But when you're working on the face, that second brain, which stores all the things we don't process, and I don't mean last night's McDonald's, I mean trauma, grief, fear, bereavement, the things we can't verbalise, the things we're not ready to talk about, the things we shove on the back burner. And these massively impact our stress hormones. We don't want to eat much. You know, we want to pick up addictive habits. That's how the second brain will react. But in this way, we are easing away that tension. We're getting in with touch and stimulating the four main happy hormones and coping chemicals, which I've banged on enough about in other videos. So I'm just going to get on with the touch today. And you can always look at my previous videos if you want more information about that. But the first place we're going to work is the temples. And I've said this a billion times. You probably know it off by heart by now. The temples are where 3 of the main happy hormones and coping chemicals are made, produced and stored. And it's where the 4th happy hormone, dopamine, the hormone of focus, motivation, pleasure, joy, reward, concentration, seeing the bigger picture, focus, perspective, all of those incredibly important higher brain functions, some travel up from the gut, but a lot of dopamine is made deep in the hypothalamus, deep in the brain, travels up the sides of the head and is stored in the pituitary, which we access through the temples. So what we're going to do, first of all, is gently massage the temples, and you just use your 3 fingers, or you can use your palms. If somebody's in really deep grief, a child or somebody who's a bit sensitive to touch, you may find they want that softer pressure of your palms over their temples, going backwards and forwards. And you can do this on yourself. Show your child how to do this on themselves, because if they start to feel that grief swimming up and you're not there, you're not with them, they know how to do this for themselves. And everything I do, as far as possible, I share with every child or family, because I believe it's so empowering to have those tools to be able to self-manage and self-regulate and be self-aware of when those feelings are building. So this is a really good one. The other one is to just stimulate your forehead here, because here you have the pineal, and that naturally stimulates melatonin. When we're in grief or trauma or shock, we're using up all of our serotonin, the hormone of happiness, confidence and self-esteem. We're using our daily quota that we're given a day. Or if we're clinically depressed, we don't make enough of it anyway. If we don't make enough serotonin, we don't make enough serotonin, which controls sleep, mood and aggression, which is why when we're upset or stressed, we have terrible trouble sleeping, having awful nightmares, staying asleep, waking up, having trouble getting back to sleep. So this is another lovely thing to do. Any sort of gentle rotation around the eyes, gentle circular rotations around the eyes, under the eyes, and along the jawbone, gentle massage. It draws away stress and tension, and you are stimulating that 90% of the happy hormone, serotonin, from the gut, and gently getting it on the move, helping you to process those feelings without the need for words. Because believe it or not, even in my life, and I love talking, as you know, even in my life, there are times when I have to do what I call walk the quiet of my own soul. I need to hear me. I don't need somebody else telling me how I should feel or that it will all be better in 5 minutes. I need to walk it. And there are times in life when the touch is all we need. And it's that giving somebody, the best friend or parent you could be, is to give permission to whoever you're with to sit with those feelings and work them through. And by giving them the touch, you're filling those cells with those beautiful happy hormones and coping chemicals and the ability to process with focus in their own time. And it will take as long as it needs to take. But in the meantime, you're programming their cells, the memory in their cells, with these feelings that they can cope with it, that they can function through it, that they can have moments of happiness and not feel bad about that. So what I'm going to do now is to take you on a journey. So you can either use the touch first as part of the meditation, or you can just do the meditation or just do the touch. But all of this will help with anybody going through grief, pain, emotional pain, bereavement. So you can either close your eyes, or if you have a child that finds it very difficult to close their eyes, you might want a photograph of that person that they can hold, or a piece of jewellery, or a book, or something that was very precious to that person. And just hold it. Or if you've just got your eyes shut, Maybe put your hands on that part of the body or those parts of the body where you are feeling that grief. It might be present grief in your heart. It might be deep-seated grief or anger that this person has died and you weren't given that right during COVID to celebrate their life, to grieve properly, to have that closure. So just close your eyes. Encourage the child. You could do it with them so they feel included. Lie down on a blanket together or a sofa. Wrap up. Have that comfort. Wrap up together under the blanket. And just breathing in and out through your nose. Feel where you feel that pain, that grief the most. And put your hands there. Or if you're holding something and you're just looking at it, you can still be aware of where that pain is in your body. And I want you to travel with me now up a path. It's a beautiful path, and you have nothing on your feet. And yes, you've got your pain with you, but you're feeling connected to the ground. This shock and grief has knocked you out of your body, and you need to walk barefoot along this path. It might be sunny, it might be raining. Your path might be brick, it might be bark chips, it might be soft, smooth pebbles. But whatever it is connecting you deep in the earth. And you come to a door. It's like an old door to a secret garden. And you reach out and you touch the big handle. Or it might be a bolt, or it might even be a jar as if it was waiting for you to arrive. Whatever you're getting is perfect for you. Don't try and change it to what I'm saying. And you open that door, and inside is the most fantastic walled garden where you are safe. And you stand there in awe. The sun is shining. There are beautiful trees edging the wall. Some of them have the beginnings of fruit on them, and some of them have the ends of blossoms. You can see a few butterflies. Hear the birds. Hear the quiet of you standing in this magical garden. And there's a path in the garden, and you begin to follow it, and you're aware of the smells of the flowers. There might be the odd butterfly flowing in front of you, and you just keep walking this spiral path as if it's the most natural thing in the world to do. And the further in you walk, the lighter your body feels, and your pain might still be there wherever that is in your body, but you feel safe. You feel held in your blanket or your coat in the middle of this beautiful walled secret garden. And when you get to the middle, sitting in a beautiful chair, as if it's the most natural thing in the world, is your loved one. And if emotion comes, let it come. Sometimes in guided journeys, people do cry, and that's okay, because you are so safe here. Let it come. And if you're angry, let that come too. Sit with those feelings opposite this loved one on a chair is another chair, or a beanbag, or a bench, or some cushions, or a picnic blanket. And I want you now to sit in this place that's right for you, next to or opposite your loved one, and tell them. Tell them if you felt angry that they went. Cry if you need to. Hold their hand. Hold their hand in yours. And tell them all the things you wanted to tell them that you never got a chance to say. And pour out your heart in this beautiful, safe place. And just tell them the good, the bad, the in-between. But most of all, I want you to finish by telling them something you love about them. A piece of advice they gave you. I'm thinking of my nonna, my beautiful Italian nonna. And she said to me many a time, Juliana, come into my kitchen. When we cook together, you want to cry, because the only time you cry in the kitchen is when you're peeling onions. It could be something, a smell they had, the comfort of their arms around you. Feel it now if you want to. But remember something from them that you are going to take into your life forever. And as you do this, this loved one pushes into your hand a beautiful velvet bag. It can be any colour of your choice. It might be bright yellow or a deep inky purple. And your loved one tells you to open this bag. And when you do, it's full of seeds. And your loved one takes your hands and these seeds, this bag, and they press your hands with the bag onto your heart. And their hands grow really warm. And your hands grow really warm underneath theirs. And all the seeds are melting into your heart and into your body. And you can feel it almost tickling as these plants begin to sprout little roots, almost as if your heart is the sun and your tears are the rain. And these seeds will forever grow inside you. This is their gift to you. And you can come back to this secret garden anytime you want, and your loved one will be there. And your seeds will become flowers. And your tears will, in your own time, wash away your pain. And the warmth of your loved one will make the sun in your heart grow bigger and dissolve those tears and dissolve that anger. Be kind to yourselves. And for you and your child, grow those flowers at the pace you're ready to. But they will always be inside you. And now, when you are ready, kiss your loved one's hands, or kiss their cheek, and they're as real and warm to you as your last beautiful memory of them being well. And there's no need for sadness, because you can come back anytime you want, snuggled into your warm blanket or your warm coat. And whenever you are ready, take leave of your loved one. Walk back along the spiral path and through your secret garden. And leave the door ajar for whenever you want to come back. And before you open your eyes, squeeze yourselves back into your body. Bring that energy down. And put your hands over your heart. And completely in your own time, open your eyes. You've said your goodbye, but they are always there. Not in the way you may have wanted, but believe me when I say to you, they are always there, and I know that. So I wish you peace, and I wish you the warmest of blessings, and you will get there, I promise you. So take care, and I will see you soon.